And we are starting day 2 with our sit-down interview with former Seattle Police Chief Carmen. Chief, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So you just opened ICMA as the keynote speaker during the opening session. What was it in your speech that you hope was the key takeaway?
Well, I really wanted to make sure that people walked away with the thought of hope for the future, that this whole situation with policing, reform, city government, county government, it's not dead on arrival. In fact, we have real opportunity here with all the change that we're going through to really and truly reimagine how we're going to provide service to all the constituents and the people who live and work in our cities and counties. And the audience was very receptive, and I think it worked out well.
Well, let's talk just a little bit about your background. You were with the Seattle Police Department for 28 years, the last 2 of which you served as chief. You also broke a barrier, becoming the first African-American woman to hold that top spot. Given everything that we've seen in the country with a certain distrust among certain communities in our country and the police, how important was it, do you think, for people to see not only a woman, but a woman of color in that top position?
For one, it helped young people and women and people of color realize that they have an opportunity there. But certainly, I was a unicorn in many ways. And it was really important to me to really advance the profession of policing, but also to do it in recognizing that we have some issues that we have to work on. I mean, we cannot hide from the fact that there's, racial disparity and other issues in policing and police service. What we have to figure out is how we're going to move it forward and make it better for every single person who lives, who works, or who visits in the city or in the county.
What were some of your toughest obstacles to overcome during your tenure as chief?
Well, the biggest thing was after the murder of George Floyd and the series of protests that came with that. It was a tough time in policing. I mean, there was a lot of, dysfunction, a lot of demonstrations, various groups that were, pro or anti, you name it. And there's just a lot of divisiveness and a lot of polarization that came after that. And really, the only way you can really be effective for public safety is the public. Everyone needs to be involved in what happens. So that was particularly tough going through all of that. I think there's still some residual issues that have to be solved. I know that Congress was looking at putting forward the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I'm not sure where that's going to go at this point. It looks like there's still some work to be done there. But we do need to reimagine how we're doing things and how we're moving forward. But I absolutely am hopeful and truly believe that we're going to do exactly what needs to be done to make it safe for everybody.
You mentioned reimagining moving forward. That's actually a perfect segue because you've spoken out about reimagining policing. What does that entail?
What it entails is really bringing all the stakeholders to the table, absolutely listening to what everyone's perspective is and what they want to see happen, and then come to some sort of compromise, if we have to, about how we're going to make it move forward. There's a lot of talk about using alternative responses to policing. I'm certainly all for that. If we can better address mental health crisis, people who have addiction, certainly that would be great because a lot of officer time is spent with those particular problems. I will say this, if we wait until someone's called 911, it's probably too late to have that intervention because things have already gone bad enough that they need a different type of intervention. But if we can get upstream of that and really provide services to people when they need them, I think we'll do a lot better.
How much progress do you think has been made today in trying to bridge the gap between police departments and the communities that they serve?
Well, over time, I'll say we've made some advancements for sure. That policing has changed and it's evolved so much more than when I first came on, but we still know that we have some work to do. I mean, that just goes without saying. I can acknowledge all of the things that went wrong in policing, the disparity, the problems that we've had, but also still love being an officer and know that there's a real value in public service and providing that service. We just need to find a way to do it and make sure that we're doing it fairly and equitably for everyone.
And how hopeful are you that we're going to be able to hit that finish line and we'll be able to have, peaceful coexistence between our police departments and the communities that they serve?
Oh, I believe we'll get there. I mean, I'm not sure when that's going to happen. It's the when. It might take a little more time than we would want. I'd like it to happen tomorrow, but we'll get there. because there's so many people engaged. These discussions that we're having, as tough as they are and as difficult as they are, they're necessary discussions to move the ball and to move the needle forward. So I think it's going to happen.
And you have a new book out.
I do have a new book
out.
Talk
to me about it.
I'm very excited about it. It's called Black and Blue, Leadership Lessons on Breaking Barriers and Racial Reconciliation. Really, it takes people through maybe some lessons that I've learned as my youth and coming up, but also certainly it talks a lot about what we went through in 2020 and my ultimate decision to leave the police department, a job that I really loved, and why that happened. I think that people will read it, they'll find it in some ways entertaining, but also some real good lessons learned, and I think that people will be inspired by it.
And where can they get it?
So it's available on Amazon.com for pre-order. It's available at Target. It's available at Barnes & Noble. And if you go to blackandbluebook.com, you can get a little preview of the book and where you can order it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.